thank you to our 3 sponsors for supporting our podcast. Johnny Russell's Art Caterers and Milltown Pies, who offer fantastic catering services, Alexander Grace Law, who provide modern and client-led legal services, and SBE Furnishings, who offer high-quality furnishings and electrical items at fantastic prices.
Gordon, send more house to save the house. Come on, the house!
So through late 90s, like I say, I already mentioned, you end up having quite a decent run at opening the batting, and statistically start to have some of your better years aggregate wise. Was that an opportunity or a change in tack that you thought, obviously 1 or 2 players have moved on, there were maybe some spots at the top of the order there that you wanted to do that, or did you just get thrust in, get on with it?
I ended up opening when I think Stan got injured, because I didn't open that much with Stan, but it was certainly when Yarrow was here. I know Blaise was on the other week about how much coaching he did. I used to get quite a bit off Yarrow in nets. He'd just tell me just to hit through the V. Just said, don't try and cope, don't try and do this, don't try and do that. Just do what you're good at, wait for the ball and hit it, and just hit it over the top as hard as you can. And it just worked. And we just had a couple of seasons there that I opened. All you used to do is hit the ball back over the bowler's head or over mid-on, and it just worked. But like, Joe's probably got a few more shots than me, to be fair. But Joe went through a spell, I think, in his early career where Joe, it doesn't matter where they, but if they bowled outside off something, Joe would smack it straight back over extra cover, wouldn't you, Joe?
Yeah, I would.
I too.
But yeah, I enjoyed opening. Again, I don't think I have much brain power working. I remember going out one day and Nicky was opening and we played East Lancs, and this was a home game, 1 toss bat. I don't know how we're batting when Claude Henderson's bloody bowling, but Nicky, right Frank, take your time. First ball, tried to smash him out at ground, straight back up in air. Barry Evans, what were he called? We used to nickname Barry Evans behind stumps.
East Lancs.
Matt Egan,
yeah. Ball come down, thought, you're out here, start walking off. Matt Egan just dropped it. So Nicky gives me a bollocking. Anyway, I just tried to do things. Exactly the same thing, second ball. Just didn't listen to anybody. Brains of the gnat.
I can remember Blaise telling me a story, and I don't know if I've got the details right, but I think you went out opening the batting and you had a theory about how you could hit every ball for 6.
For Hyslopad. That's your theory. It's a Hyslopad. How many runs can you get in a test match? 90 overs in a day, 6 every ball.
You used to work that out all the time, though, in every game. If we were chasing or something like that, you say, we can win this in 24.1 overs if we score 6 every ball or something.
Yeah, don't mess around, get on with it.
And that was it, and that's how you went out and batted, Frank?
Yeah, just trying to hit every ball for 6.
I'm going to ask you if you ever considered first team captaincy, Frank, but I think you just answered that query.
Well, sadly, Joe, you'll be wrong there. I've captained the first team, and I think Jez will remember when Matt stood down would have been 2000 when Yarra finished, and he wasn't going to be. Matt wasn't be captain because captain them days you had to hire and fire everybody. Matt didn't like it. Didn't like the area of telling somebody that they were dropped next week, and then have to go crawling to them on a Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and say, "Can you play? Can you play?" So then Stan took on that duty. That was the time that Stan was injured.
All right, yeah.
Remember, but that season, remember, so that would have been the end of 2000. We had who was going to be captain because Matt had things. So it was, remember, Chippy and Payne put up for it.
Yeah.
And then I put up for it because we didn't want them to do it, with the greatest respect to them. I don't know whose idea that were. That I'd be more sensible than them two. But if you remember, what happened was, then Stan came along with a plan that he would do that management role, would be prepared to tell people who were dropped, sort the teams out so Matt wouldn't have to do all that running around. And then Matt said, right, fair enough, I'll continue on as captain. And that's when Chippy and Penny threw the teddy out. So that's why they ended up leaving.
Yeah, I remember that. That was around that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that was just as John Kent was coming. So then that
That'd have
whole
been
year,
2001, something like that, Frank.
Yeah,
2001.
2001. I was Matt's vice captain that year.
There you go.
Infamous Worsley Cup game.
You just mentioned an infamous Worsley Cup game there. What were you referring to?
Well, when I say it was infamous, it was, we got in the dressing room before the game. Matt was injured, so I ended up having to captain.
Who were we playing?
Rishton. First round at Worsley Cup. The first year they brought in power plays. 15 overs, I think it was, or it might have been 10 that year. They'll have had Sleep playing. Sleep was an amateur that year. They had a real line-up. So I don't know who pro were. Sleep would have been captain.
Paul Adams.
Yeah.
Oh, 2002, sorry.
Yeah, we played Rishton in
2002.
And we had
Who
Jack.
was our pro doing Jack in 2002?
Jack was the pro. What do you remember about it, Frank? Because it does look interesting, but it's not flooding back to me.
Well, it must have been the year before then. I'm certainly it was John Kent's year, because it was the year that John Kent walked in the dressing room and said, "I'm not able to bowl." And I said, "I looked around the dressing room. We didn't have 5 bowlers." So little Pinky was playing. Young Krapinski bowled that day. Blez bowled.
We had Jeff Love as sub-pro.
Oh, so Kent didn't play?
No.
It was definitely Rishton, because Rishton went out at it, pulled out of a china shop, and after the power play, there was something like 40 for 3.
Frank, I'm quite sure it was 2002.
With Jack.
Yeah, and you're probably getting Pinky mixed up because of that 80% vodka you once drank at Tony Woodward's house. Because the lad you're referring to, I think, is Chris Astin bowled 9.4 overs, 23 for 4. And I do remember it, they're 117 all out, and they're a good side. You know, they've got Sleep as amateur, Russell Worley, Rostron, Adams was the pro, and we've knocked them off relatively easy. Yeah, so that's probably the game. Jack's 47 got out, and Wall 25. I do remember it. They went absolutely mental, didn't they?
Yeah, just tried to go at it.
Yeah.
That was the year we got to the semi-final, wasn't it? 2002.
Yeah.
But not many people have captained all for second and third team, Joe. So there you go.
Well, I think I have.
And I have.
I think so.
And I think
You
Gary
just have to check thirds.
4 out of 5.
Gary's played in a lot of third team games.
Yeah, we've done that podcast. That's a wrap, that one.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Frank. So we've moved on through the late 90s into the 2000s, and we haven't hit why. What was the tipping point to turn you into the village idiot?
It must have been.
What year did you start knocking around with Gaz Scully?
Probably then. 98 to be fair.
Alcohol.
Yeah, probably about when Yarra turned up.
I think that's about the time, because there were a bit of rain that season. I can remember as we got one of these super sopper water hogs, and Frank Ever up for a dare or a bet got. I can't remember who it was who dared you, or you maybe in fact you probably even suggested it yourself. Nobody would be daft enough to think of it and actually dare you. I think you actually volunteered. I wonder what that water tastes like that it's mopping up, and it was, and because you used to empty like a vat out and pour it away, and it was rancid the stuff. And you tell me the story, Frank. 'Cause I don't know how it came about. I just remember somebody bringing you a pint glass, and you go in and fill in this pint glass of this liquid that's been mopped up round the ground with all the sort of chemicals and everything else that goes down on the ground. And you drunk it in one.
Well, I'll tell you it is. It's already on it. Jez was the instigator in most of these episodes of me drinking something or dare of this. And if it wasn't him, it was his younger brother Nicky. who used to say, Frank, you've always said you'll bet me for anything. Here's 5p, I'll bet you. So,
Well, Frank, why don't we have a little 10-minute topics? We could even get Joe to put a jingle in. Frank's 5p bets. How many can we name?
how many can you name?
Right.
How many can you leave in the podcast? That's more of a challenge.
Right, well, I'll tell you what. You've mentioned one. So you've mentioned. Gary's brought up the hog water, because I remember Phil Aston going apeshit at that. You know, people had said, "We'll bet you 5p," and you always took the 5p off them. But Phil went mental because he said he could die. You know, what's in that ground? He could die. And by which time, you know, you're halfway down, you're dribbling down your chin and all over your jumpers. So you brought that one up. I'll bring the next one up. The back of the groundsman's hut, it's really wet and damp, and it's another rainy day. We're off for rain, and some kids have come on and they're carrying these mushrooms around. And I swear to God, the size of a dinner plate, some of the mushrooms they find. So the parents are going apeshit. Put them away, throw them away, throw them away. You shouldn't touch wild mushrooms. You never know what they're going to be. Frank looked at someone. Someone looked back and said, I bet you 5p you don't go and take a bite. So he did. He went and bit with this horrible big mushroom.
Probably, I can't remember it where. 5p bet Frank, neck that tramp.
The beauty of that story was 20 to 11 in the morning.
Very early.
She'd gone in there with all the mates, and we'd had a good morning. I mean, I know listeners, and so we're in Burnley Town Centre at 8:30 in the morning, have a full English and get the bus X43 over. Frank is, I mean, we could talk about it now, Frank, I think, because there's no medals for it. You weren't the best drinker in the world, but you would always drink strong lager. You would be, you know, drunk the first, but you would carry on all the way through.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a fair description, Jez.
Frank, what about whiskers in a pint glass?
Oh, when you had that shaving foam, when you shaved yourself in dressing room, yeah, that's a good one.
So many a time, some of us would not shave much, maybe Thursday, Friday. We'd play cricket, going for a pint after the game, and we'd have a shave. And because the cricket, we'd no hot water in the dressing room, other than what came out of one shower, you would put the hot water in a pint glass and shave yourself. So you've whiskers and shaving foam in it. Frank, I bet you can't drink this for 5p. Fucking give it here. So over to you.
Good times, weren't they?
Over
Tomato
to you.
Juice.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
That's that one that you found, didn't you? Like, must have been 2000, and you found it was dead like 1990, weren't it, Robert?
Yeah. A full crate of tomato juice, and he said if you drink them all, you can have 10p. Managed to get through about 6, and literally projectile vomited all on.
Oh God.
What about them blue shorts that Matt used to wear, Frank?
Oh yeah. Lick them.
He had a pair of he had a pair of lycra, like thick lycra shorts to stop him getting groin strains, and they were thick, and he'd sweat a lot in them. And after we'd come off the field at half time, someone unfortunately challenged Frank to lick them for 5p, and he did it.
Oh, I think they go on, Frank. They go on and on.
Oh dear.
Undefeated, Jez, undefeated.
Undefeated, yeah. No one challenged you.
Cast iron insides, you must have. Unbelievable. There's stories of mayonnaise and glass bottles and stuff like that as well. So you know, we could have a separate podcast all for Frank's eating and antics, but I think no, we don't want to.
What about eating sachets of butter at Sportsman's dinner with foil still on them? Why did you do that?
That was Irish Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there were a full bottle of mayo out at canteen, out at tea room.
Yeah. Mayo.
Oh, jeez.
Kohinoor. We walked in the Kohinoor on Manchester Road, which has been shut now for probably 30 years. And Frank, I bet you can't eat one of those roses on the table for 5p. So he bit every head off, all the flowers on the table, and just crunched them and swallowed them.
It's escalated quickly, this, hasn't it? We were just talking nice and serenely going along about Frank's cricket career. Now we're talking about all sorts of nonsense. I think as soon as I mentioned Gaz Scully, it's gone off the rails.
Yeah. Bailey's on a Friday night.
So, pulling it back then. There's a few more games around the turn of the century there, Frank, that, like I say, I think you probably had most consistent run and most, runs. There's a game away at Todd where you had a 116 opening stand with Sam, Stan Heaton, where we successfully chased 180. You top scored with 57. How can you bat so long with Stan and survive not being run out?
That's easy, Gary. That's the game I were on with.
That explains a lot then. That explains a lot.
If you ever get Chippy on the podcast, that Chippy was going, what's going on here? I'm feeling it third man under the school, on that big wall on the far side of Todd. The ball had come to me and I'd just waz it in, straight over the stumps, and Chippy would like double take and go, Just kept throwing it in like everyone over the stumps, like missiles, and he's going, what's going on here? And he looked at my eyes, and my eyes were all and I just went out to bat and just started smashing that little. Was it Nash, wasn't it, that used to be? Was he Zimbabwean, and then he went to West Indies later, or something like that?
Yeah, he was Australian, and then went to play for the West Indies. Yeah,
he played two internationals. He played for both international countries, didn't he? Yeah, so yeah, I remember putting him over at school a few times. Stan was good to bat with, unless he was trying to run.
So you didn't bat with Stan all that. You didn't open the batting with Stan all that often, Frank.
No, Nicky.
You batted more with Nicky.
Yeah.
And what was your kind of partnership like with Nicky at the time?
Well, Nicky, I think when Nicky's years, Nicky was captain, so probably Nicky was Nicky and Blaise, obviously. Then were our premier batsmen, I would have thought at that stage. And Nicky used to get frustrated with me, like probably most of my captains, because I just went out with that attitude of trying to hit every ball for six. So, I remember us playing Crompton in the Intertoto Trophy, whatever we used to call it. We got to semi-final one year.
Yeah, we did.
We played Crompton at home, and Nicky said they were allowed 2 out at circle, Frank. I think they might have had you watched. So they'd mid-off back on park boundary and mid-ons back on park boundary. Don't try and smash it. First ball tried to smash it, got caught at mid-off. He went absolutely ballistic. What have I said to you? Just one answer, Nick. Faisalabad.
What's the Faisalabad thing? What's the connection there?
So it's Pakistan test. You just go. And if you get, it's a test match, 5-day test, 90 overs a day. How many runs can you get if you hit 6 every ball?
Right.
So that's my answer to him every time. 6 of all, Nicky. Nothing matters. But entertaining people.
We lost that semi-final, didn't we? I remember.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. We're away, weren't it?
No, we're at home. We were at Lowerhouse, the semi-final that we lost against Crompton.
All right, I'm thinking of something else where we played over at near Bury somewhere. I can't remember. Right, so and also you got another what turned out to be your top scorer, Lancashire League, 76, Bacup at home, in a close game. Talking about you hitting sixes every ball sort of thing. Just looking at the stats there, you got 76 off 106 balls, which is a reasonable going opening up, and but 56 of them were in boundaries off 11 balls. So you had another 90 odd balls there for 20 runs. Do you remember that innings? It sounds a bit of a strange mate.
Yeah, I remember it because they had what was his nickname? What was their pro called? His nickname was Horse.
Is it Brad White?
Brad White, yeah, that was his nickname was Horse. Terry Lord will have bowled loads of overs that day. Terry Lord, W bowled his normal, really tight. Horse and Terry Lord hit me about 70 of them balls. Pitch were awful. I got hit 50, 60, 70 times that day. Terry Lord just kept peppering me. Every other ball were hitting me. Whether it ribs, on arm, everywhere. But good win.
Yeah, a good knock then.
Good side pick up then.
Yeah, they were sort of late 90s and around that time they'd some league wins, hadn't they? So moving on then, season 2000 then was we touched on it when Yarrow was in. You're saying you sort of got on with quite well and he helped you sort of coaching. The standout game for me when he was playing was his last game for us, and it was quite a fixture in the situation of the league around that time. I think Bacup were top of the league or had a chance of favourites to win the league. East Lancs also needed to stuff us to have a chance of winning the league, I think, depending on results elsewhere. Talk me through your attire when we took the field.
Well, Nicky will have been captain, yeah. I had that Bacup cap on that day, didn't I? That was at East Lancs, wasn't it? It was
at East Lancs, yeah. So you walk out knowing we're playing East Lancs, they need to beat us to win the league, knowing that Bacup also need to win to have a chance of winning the league. And how did you get hold of it? What was your hat? Who came up with that idea? Whose hat was it?
It was Chappie's. Yeah, Chappie gave me a couple of weeks before. And I just said, we played them last game. I said, we'll turn them over for you. Give us your cap and I'll wear it all day.
So Keepers Union.
Yeah, Keepers Union. I tell you, was on. Ryan was scorer. Ryan Esketh.
Yeah.
And remember Mark Briggs used to do Radio Lancashire Telegraph. Who does a lot of the beer things now.
Yeah.
Briggsy was the Radio Lancashire commentator that day. It was live on Radio Lancashire.
Why would Ryan Esketh have been scoring?
He was injured.
All right.
Yeah, so I think he'd had an injury earlier on in the year, so he was scoring a lot then. And Briggsy was scoring right next to the score box. Good job they were to witness for me.
I remember that, Frank. I'm just looking at the scorecard now, because I mean that half of Frank's stories about being daft as a brush, he knows what he's doing, and there is a bit of prep and planning, certainly unless he's whizzing his tits off. But there is some prep and planning. But no one knew what you'd done that day. You hadn't told anyone, had you?
No. Afterwards?
And did you wear it to bat? Because we batted first. And I'm not sure you wore it to bat, did you? I've just got this recollection of us being out in the field and maybe, like you used to do, that daft warming up, throwing ball around, and someone said, "What's Frank got on?"
And you're walking around.
Yeah, and you're walking around like a peacock with this Bacup cap on.
They were going mad.
They were.
I'm just trying to think how I would have reacted if I'd have been captain. Gary, what would you have done? What would you have done if you'd have been captain of our team and he's got a Bacup cap on? How would you deal with that?
I don't know, Joe. I seriously don't know. I think possibly because it were at East Lancs, you might have turned off a blind eye.
Yeah.
Possibly because last match at season and a little bit funny, etc., turned another half a blind eye. Probably because it were Frank, turned another half a blind eye. And before you know it, you've got your eyes completely shut. So it don't really matter. But I think somebody grabbed Dave Wren. I think one of their committee guys went and grabbed hold of Dave Wren and said, this is not on. This is we're going to complain about it. Their players are saying, "Oh, you just want to stop us winning league." Well, yeah, and we did. And I think as long as they needed the bonus point, and so we held out. I think we'd 8 down or something like that. We held out there, and then and Claude Henderson. Claude Henderson there, he were going mental that day. We were really chirpy. And then when he came into bat and he got a few early doors and looked like, because I think we only got 120 odd, and he looked like he might obviously he was the one to get. And Chippy were getting right under his nose, really giving him some verbals.
Yeah.
And it were a tough game. It were a hard fought game that day, and there were quite a lot of banter going out. But it all kicked off with that cap, no doubt about it.
Yeah, because they were convinced they were going to stuff us. You're right, Gary. We were 120, 44 over games, so it probably rain affected.
Rain, yeah.
Yeah, And they're thinking they've got us, and mysteriously, Frank the Bake-Up cat wearing batter gets run out for none. And then you go out to bat, and they were all over Renners, you're right. And I think Renners was a little bit disappointed, but because they had another reason to turn another of your blind eyes. If Bake-Up are a decent set of lads, they're decent club, and we probably, if we're being truthful, which we have to be, we'd probably want Bake-Up to win before East Lancs.
Yeah.
But Renners is getting it all off the tie brigade from East Lancs, and Frank's just out there. He's like William Tell.
Yeah, I think internally we're fist pumping. We're Renner. I think he just like, I'm with the crew here. I'm not going to say anything. Good on him. I'm nothing to do with it, but yeah, well done, lads.
Yeah, that was funny.
What year would that have been?
I think that was 2000.
Correct.
2000.
Yeah, last
Yarra.
year. But also, Gary, your last game ever for Lowerhouse.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what it says. And Simon Payne.
No,
You know something, Jez? We played Bake-Up the day before that. Bake-Up won the league.
You're right.
Bake-Up. They had Adam Dale, because that's the day before we had such crack. I mean, we played down the bottom at Bake-Up. Dale was having the ball doing all sorts. We batted. I don't know whether it rained, but we didn't get many, but we were there all bloody day.
59.
But I remember Adam Dale bowling me one that pitched outside leg stump, took my off stump, bowled me, and they all walked off to like applaud everyone. I just put the bails back on. I said, "You can't do that. I just bowl it again." Not having it. Which was good crack because Chappie and that. Come on, Frank, you've got to go. So I'm not going. But yeah, they were a good crack. But I think that's how I got the cap. It must have been the day before.
Yeah, we did. You're right. Yeah, we 50 odd all out, weren't we?
59, yeah.
Yeah, Adam Dale used to do all sorts. He had it on a string sometimes.
The East Lancs game, I just need to put on record, because I don't give you enough credit, is that Jez took 6 for 44 off 21 overs that day. So, well bowled, Jez. And again, gives us further sort of testimony as to why your ankle is like it is.
Yeah, no, it's all right, Joe. I didn't think I thought you only brought it up when I went for none for two.
It weren't just me that bowled him into the ground, Joe.
Everyone did.
Every skipper took pleasure in it. Yeah.
I loved it.
So we've just had a text in, Frank, from a former captain of yours in the seconds, and he just wants to clear something up. And I'll read it out as he's written it. It says, "I was captaining the twos at Todd when you started shouting, 'Stanley, Stanley, Stanley.' I looked up and shouted back, 'What's up, Frank?' You then shouted, 'Why don't we try and you crossed both your arms in front of your chest so your hands were pointing in opposite direction like that fucking scarecrow off Wizard of Oz.' And I still, to this day, haven't got a clue what you were trying to tell me. Enlighten me." And that is from Paul Stansfield.
No idea.
Was that another whiz incident?
Probably. I was a lot better then. That would have been late, early 2000. That would have been 2003 or 2000. Oh no, perhaps 5 or 6. That, but
why don't we try and
tell some good tales?
Were you playing then, Joe? You were playing then?
No, Paddy was playing, and I was either scoring or tallying or watching or whatever. Right. So that would have been 2006, Frank?
Yeah, 2006,
like that.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I can remember because you used to have, this is a really boring wicket-keeping point, but you used to have a pair of Kookaburra Super Greens that used to wicket-keeping. And then you changed, you had some bright, brilliant red GM gloves that you swapped to. And I went and bought some because you had some.
Wow.
That's sad.
Hero worshipping.
Jeez.
I used to worship. I still do, but as a young wicket keeper and watching Paddy, we didn't go and watch the first team. We had to go and watch.
Tell you one thing, Joe. My wicket keeping career, I never once bought a pair of gloves. I find them at the bottom of a bag, or I find them on the street. Never bought a pair in my life.
Street.
Or perhaps at the back of Malcolm Yardley's.
I think,
Before he brought all it.
and in that era as well, Frank, we have discussed the year before, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of what people have got planned, but you actually played a really important role in the first team when we won the league in 2005. Can you give us your kind of recollections of that?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a terrific. On the back of the Worsley Cup, it was a terrific. It was a terrific period. 2003 was probably the time I thought we were maybe going to do something. I look back in the games. There's a couple of games I looked at in July that year in 2003 where Joe played in one of them against Bacup, got some runs. Week after we played at Ramey, Charlie got runs. You just thought these lads can really do something. But yeah, the championship year was terrific. I think we only used 14, maybe 15 players that year. The 11 that played, obviously discounting the pro, but and then Barrett, Chris Ashton, and myself were the only other 3 that we used. But yeah, I only played 5 games. But the one away at Ramey was terrific. That game at Ramey, my old mate, Murali Kartik. Take every opportunity when he's on telly to send him a message, giving him my regards.
What happened there, Frank?
If you might well remember, Jez, I think we probably won the toss and elected to bowl. Johnny Russell got stuck into him. Johnny bowled terrifically well that day. To be fair, Jack McGregor would have been keeping that year, and I'm not sure whether Finchy wasn't playing. So Finchy might well not have been available that day, and Jack McGregor certainly wasn't available. So 2 probably of our better 11 or our first start 11 weren't available. I remember that day being really nervous because I knew it was if we'd have won that game, we'd have we were going points clear. It was really important to the club, and I know that's probably the only time I can remember ever feeling nervous at a cricket game, and never really being nervous at a game. There were loads from Lowerhouse, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
They were brilliant. I mean, you were over, Jez. You were already pipes deep before the game had started, but there were just so many people, somewhat older heads, you know what I mean? A lot of people really expecting us to really do something. I remember being nervous, but to be fair, Tripp did me a real favour that day. Tripp was at first slip that day, and he taught me through the first couple of overs because I was a proper bag of nerves. But Johnny Russell, when he started getting into him, it was fabulous. He didn't get so many.
75 all out.
Is that all he got? And then
Johnny had 7 for.
Yeah, Macca was a good tactician at that. He knew what was required to sometimes win games. So I think Tiffer Finchy wasn't playing, so Tiffer went out and opened that day. Didn't get so many, maybe teens, but it was just the momentum that he gave us. Macca saw his own probably. That was the day that Ben got a load of grief from Kartik. Kartik being an absolute tool that day, appealing every other ball, or every ball perhaps, just ridiculous. There are ways of winning games, but he was just over the top. Macca told him later anyway. I certainly told him in the bar afterwards. But yeah, winning that game, and then I think the next day, I think we won again. And Ramey lost. So it was a 24-point weekend for us, and they got none. It's fabulous. Yeah. Yeah. Great memories to the Worsley Cup and then the league that year. Fabulous.
Can I bring a game up from 2004 that's one of my favourite of all time? You probably know what I'm going to say. The tie at home against Enfield.
Last game of the season.
Was it the last game of the season?
Yeah, Fult's last game.
I don't think it was, Frank. No, I don't think it was.
Bet you.
All right, then. What we're betting?
5p.
5p.
Oh, Frank has to kiss a tramp.
I'll bet you 5p it wasn't the last game of the season.
Look it up, Joe.
I have.
Enfield at home. Tie.
Yeah, the 21st of August, 2004.
Right, so I must have finished season 4 weeks early then.
Oh, well. Probably finishing my season, Joe. That's what I meant.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I do remember it well. We'd obviously had the semi-final. I don't know why the first game went against Enfield. semi-final of the Worsley Cup was just something special, wasn't it? But they needed nothing off and all, probably three or maybe 4 wickets.
I think it was less than that. I think it was 1 to tie, 2 to win off the last over with like 3 wickets.
Three wickets. And I know I certainly ran 2 of them out.
You ran Dave Bracewell out off the last ball of the game.
Yeah.
To tie the match. And they were all out.
Yeah, we got bonus points. We ended up with more points than them, didn't we?
9 points for a tie.
Fabulous. We never had. I don't know. Well, I can't remember ties before like that, but yeah,
no.
But
the run out was all on Frank. The ball had gone through past the batsman, had played and missed, and obviously set off for a 1 because they needed a 1 to win. Frank's got his glove off and thrown the stumps down. He weren't stood up. He was stood back because Fulton were bowling, and you've thrown the stumps down from back where you were to tie the match. Brilliant. Really sticks out like clear as anything. I remember it. Just that kind of thing, Joe. I think from that era, you know, that 2003, 4, 5, whereas we'd have just lost that game. That we'd have just gone through the motions there. They'd have won, and we'd have lost. They'd have won by 3 wickets previously. But things like that, you know, they do stick in your memory because it's the memories that we'd have just gone through the motions. I think, and we wouldn't have won those games or wouldn't have got anything out of them. You know what I mean? Everybody had slightly changed. We never gave up. You know what I mean?
From that 2004 year, Frank, obviously we won the Worsley Cup that year, and I always, as I'm a geek to say the least. It, explains a lot of my life. But there's a picture on the Lancashire League website with you after we'd won the cup with you on it, and it says long-serving clubman Frank Entwistle can't quite believe it. It looks extremely emotional to say the least. To look at that picture. Can you? Obviously, we'll talk about your kind of second team stuff as well. But at that point, had you got involved in kind of the organisation at the club and stuff like that?
Yeah, well before that, probably about 7 or 8 years in by then. I think I did 2000. I started doing memberships. 98, I think I went on committee. I remember that was after the AGM and everybody had resigned and David needed bodies and needed help. But yeah, the Worsley Cup was emotional, I think, for everybody. Just the league, with the greatest respect to them, when we got the home tie, they had no idea. The league obviously thought, oh, here we go. We'll end up having to move this. Nobody gave us a cat in hell's chance. So facilities were really poor. You know, with the greatest respect to everybody that's come beyond and what they've done, facilities were poor. We were the first to admit that. It was always a dump, but it was our home, and we just wanted to put on a proper show, and I think we did. And what we did that day, and more so what the players did, just became a crest of a wave. Just to pick the Telegraph up and the Burnley Express the next day, and we were on front page. Incredible, yeah. I read that every time. There's one in the tea room. Is that the one from the tea room? There's one in the tea room as well, just up behind. So I go up in there every week. I just read it again. It sends a tingle down my spine. It's fabulous.
My bad memory of you in the run-up to the cup final was how you basically organised the event.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about how well organised it was, and the gazebos and the multiple bars and catering points. My memory is that you just organised that pretty much. You ran it, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd said to David from start, that's what we'll do. We'll just run it, and you've just got to go with it, and we'll just see how it goes.
How did you know how to do that?
I just pulled together some stuff that you remember, Joe. We've been to finals before, haven't we?
We have. We went to a few. Yeah.
So once we got to that semi-final, I started thinking about it. Well, I honestly thought before semi-final we were going to get the final, and I said to David, it's going to be at home. And I'd already started mingling stuff in my mind, and probably because my babe was full of gnats, that all sorts starts coming out. You know what I mean? So if you remember in the semi-final, we got knocked out. Seconds got knocked out by Burnley at Burnley, and for the semi-final, we put a gazebo up at the old pavilion. So that was the idea of where the rest of the gazebos would come. and the idea for beer and whatever came from second team. I think we got them all to pay 25 quid. We just got loads and loads of beer in. I think I was on Jack Daniels all day. I was a right mess by the end of it. But the cup final programme's got a picture of me, and I'm walking onto the ground at last minute with an empty bottle of Jack Daniels. Absolutely K-line. So, but yeah, we just started, and it was like a ball. It just kept rolling, and things kept developing. To be fair, David gave me a bit of a free license and just said, like, we'll just go with it. And the fan base, everybody just came together to on the day. We were up at 6 o'clock on the day. I remember being slept overnight in the club, so excited. Nobody could sleep.
Did you do a sale and return deal with Tesco's for ale?
We'd done Tesco's, Asda, every Tom, Dick and Harry. We'd done sale and return. Nobody thought about it before. We said, listen, just give us this. We didn't return a can. We got there were 7,000 cans of Stella, stuff like ridiculous numbers, and we just got rid of it all. And we just came up with the plan to get people into the ground. And we thought, if we get numbers into the ground, we'll get something off everybody on that day, whether it's raffle, whether it's buying a bit of food, whether it's some shades will then come to our cans. There were some of them were a bit mad. I remember Ken Hankinson and the lads from the railway club, they had two next to each other. Charlie Chips lifted, they had a forklift truck on the lane at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they just lifted over an extra 1,000 cans. Ridiculous, on pallets. It's absolute chaos. But yeah, I've got, it's a bit sad really. I've got them on a DVD, a little disc. I keep all the stats for that day. You know, how many tents were sold, who bought them, the daft names of the tents. Do you know what I mean? How many match tickets were sold, stuff like that. And that just gave us another template for the second Worsley Cup final, you know. So.
Well, it didn't just give us a template, Frank. I mean, other clubs followed suit almost immediately.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that from probably starting just before that, but from then on, I think any chance to come up with a money spinning event or a way of just including fans or memberships in some sort of social event or out of season fundraising and keep the club in use all the time. I think. I know I moved obviously away shortly after that time, but definitely, you're at the centre of a lot of that stuff getting organised. Obviously, like some Mark Lighting and stuff, and people like that coming up with ideas. But I think it's a real, we've took the piss and we listen to the daft stories and all this sort of thing and have a bit of banter. I think it's worth saying on a semi-serious note that. Something like that, it's worth its weight in gold to clubs where you've got, somebody who can pull those sorts of things together. Jez has been doing it for a long while with likes of sportsmen's dinners and raffles and draws and stuff like that. But you've got to do, you can't just rely on getting those things. We've got to do extra things as well. So it's amazing, Frank, I think what you've done and how you pull things together. And you do a lot of it. I think just like crack on and get it done. It's great to see. I'd never put.
I think we're quite unique as a club, though, Gary. I think I speak to a lot of the other committee members at other clubs, and I don't think whilst we have a committee, we have directors, and we have management committee at Lowerhouse, we make decisions, we do stuff. We're doers. We're not. We don't pontificate. We get stuff done. David did a terrific job before him. Matthew's doing an equally tremendous job as MD. Pulling things together. It's about making decisions and getting stuff done. And ever since, for the last 20 years or so, we've been doers at Lowerhouse. The people who are getting involved are doers. You don't want people just to sit there in meetings and chew the fat over this and that and the other. We're there to make decisions, for what's best for what we think is for Lowerhouse. That's all we can do. And the quicker we get those done, we can move on.
That's really interesting, that, Frank, that you say, it's a recipe for success, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a volunteer or in your normal everyday business or whatever you do. And it just brings me back to, no names or pack drills, but why Renners went on the committee all those years ago. We had a committee of 15 or 16 people, and jack shit never got done. They were just committee meetings in a social club, and the only reason I mention that, like I said, there's no names mentioned because they were all volunteers, and it was more of a social club than a cricket club. But I don't think Joe and Joel remember this. Frank and Gary might, when they had that meeting, and they invited a lot of the players and spectators to come along and listen to the meeting of how they were trying to raise money because the club was on its arse. And we must be talking, I don't know, mid-80s, something like that. And one of the committee members was just sat back and said, I've come up with an idea. Why don't we kidnap the Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Fantastic, that.
Yeah, so Gary's right, Frank, and it's almost like that silent get on with stuff. Just do it. We take the mickey out of Rusty and Tony Woodward, like you said. What Joe does with the first team. The way the 100 clubs run and things like that. It's just silent assassins, and that's what you need in either a business or an organisation where you don't pontificate and just get on with things.
Yeah, I mean, years and years ago, Dave. Probably. I mean, I'm not sure when you came on committee. Did you come on really when after that EGM, Jez?
Yeah, it was before I was captain, and then I stopped on whilst I was captain, and I got extremely frustrated. There were still a few people on that weren't doers whatsoever. And because I get so grumpy about it, I thought I'd rather go away and do my own thing and just contribute to it without having to go down to the club once every Thursday, once a week, and sit there for 3 hours and achieve nothing. So I stepped away from it. But all credit, that's all come back now with the way that, the directorships run.
Gordon, send Morehouse to save the house.